Hello, everyone. I'm Gemma Star, and welcome to another episode of Man Speak. Man Speak is an offshoot to a Heart Warrior series where some of our Heart Warriors come back and they talk for a whole nother episode on a subject particularly close to their heart that they're embodied in, full of wisdom, and able to have a great conversation here with you and I. So today I'm thrilled to welcome back the return of our number 40 Heart Warrior, and that is Billy Sunday Mars. Now, Billy is a much respected trainer of mind, body, and spiritual wholeness, and he's also a best-selling author of Fit for Love. So very happy to have Billy here. And the chosen subject for today is all about chivalry. So chivalry beyond masculinity, dating, and marriage. So happy to have you here. Thank you, and enjoy the show. Hello, Billy. Thank you so much for coming back. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. Honored to play my part in this.
Much
However,
appreciated. Because chivalry, wow, this is, an intriguing subject that, for both men and women. And first, I'd like to start off with, like, what happened to chivalry? Because we see it in the old films and, TV shows. And why is the movement now to revive it?
that's a good question. Thank you. And this is one that because of how, and you often hear me talk about neurophysiology, because of how our systems are set up, uh, it has run into trouble. Years ago, as the what we call feminism moved in, feminism, and I have a few clients who are feminists. They've written books and they're part of the movement. And what they explained was that it was about equality. And so when men hear equality, somehow that triggers you're trying to become us or be better than us. And it's like, no, women want the equality to be able to, and back then it was to vote, to be able to make decisions on their own body, which even if a man is married to a woman, it's her body. So when this understanding of chivalry came in, and a lot of men who were more chauvinists because of early life trauma, masquerading as chivalrous, a lot of the negative aspects creeped in. And so women began to look and say, well, if that's chivalry, I don't want any part of that. And a lot of what men, because of early life trauma, and I just made a post on this. When men have early life trauma, not only are they not able to read social cues, but they also have difficulty with self-regulation and the difficulty with aggression. And because of those things, they're not able to not only see what happens and again, chivalry was how you treat women, children, and the elderly. It was a male's responsibility to watch out for those and create the container, not to try to rule over or have dominance over, but play a part in creating a container that those aspects of our lives, which brought us into being, there's no male that wasn't once a child. There's no male that didn't come from a woman. And there's no male that didn't have parents that became elderly or would become elderly. So it was our job as the next generation to make sure that container was safe. Because of a lot of early life trauma, because of the different wars that had gone on and people being subject to trauma and PTSD, those husbands came back from war and they acted a different way. So for years now, women have been dealing with, let's say, misogyny, to say it blunt, that has been the symptom of trauma that has led to the symptom of what now men are saying is the misandry, that they're saying women hate men. And I explain to men, they don't hate us. What it is they're afraid because we're larger. There's a greater tendency for male violence. There's a greater tendency for male aggression. That if we're larger and we're capable of that, they are trying to defend themselves, and more than likely, at some point in time in their life, they've dealt with aggression from a man. They have dealt with hostility. Let's say the amount of women that, God forbid, that have been sexually assaulted and then down the line to more often than not harassed and felt, what can they do because this larger being is doing that or saying these things? They felt as unsafe as, not as much as a child who has no recourse and can't get up and move away, but they were also in a position where they weren't as safe. So what a woman does, and I love Alison Armstrong, uh, she's brilliant, she's wonderful. She explains a lot about this, that because of this, women, they talk about, a lot of people talk about emasculation. What emasculation is, and what misandry is, if it is such, is an attempt to establish a safe point, that if I can make this male feel like he's less aggressive, or at least chop him down a notch or two, he won't be as aggressive or as confident in himself to try to take over. And so chivalry has gotten confused with the, again, chauvinism and misogyny that many men, not all, but many have shown. Now, where does this get interesting? We have the spot where chivalry is one thing, and we have men who are overly aggressive. Well, another thing happened in the 60s, the pill, which gave women more power over their own bodies. What it also did, and a lot of people don't realize this, the pill makes women feel like, their system feel like it's pregnant already. So now they don't want a man who's testosterone driven and aggressive. They want a more of a father figure. So they want a more, I don't want to say feminized, but less aggressive male. So men tried to mimic that. So what we had is men trying to be more like dads and more less aggressive. And you also had the extreme of the misogyny and chauvinism. So if women are looking for this, this seems 10 times worse. So about the late 50s, when the pill, early 60s, when it all started to come up through the summer of love and everything, when everything changed, that's when we see the whole thing sliding off the abyss, off into the abyss, so to speak. I hope that helped out.
Yeah, that's a brilliant background, and yeah, really important just to get, the because many viewers wouldn't have been born back in the, in the 60s and the 50s when this was taking place, and to get that background is vital. And of course that extended into the 70s and onwards. So why the revival now? Why the push for, or the bringing back the awareness of chivalry, which skipped, a generation or so? Why is that important now?
Hmm. I would say that women have discovered their power. Not that they back when didn't realize it was there, but had less of a chance to express without males becoming violent. But now our society has created a situation wherein uh, women can prove it beyond the shadow of a doubt with the STEM jobs, going to college in science, technology, engineering, and math. They can prove that they can get the grades. They can prove they can be CEOs. They can prove they can be leaders of countries, as if, Queen Elizabeth, they've had queens before, but in the industrial nations, they've proven they can do that. What happened that counteracts that? Well, sadly, a lot of the jobs that men had that revolved around physical labor are now being automated. So men don't feel as confident. They don't feel like, well, I can go out and do a job and bring back a paycheck to take care of my family. So they're not able to take care of the jobs on one end, but yet women are just and I love Richard Reeves. He talks about in of Boys and Men, one of the books that's I think the title is. I could be wrong, but those STEM jobs are escalating. Meanwhile, the other jobs, the health um, and math, no, health and literacy and different things where men could also take over and do well, they're not as appealing to men. So when you have men feeling like they're less, yet women feeling like they're moving into another space, and I mentioned there was another post that men marry women hoping they don't change and they do, and women marry men hoping they do change and they don't. Well, okay, so women have changed and they're going, come on, guys, we need you up here. We need you up here. And it's not that women don't want men, it's that women want men to evolve with them. And the amount of stress that it takes to do a job, well, I often call testosterone stress testosterone because what testosterone actually does is help to overcome. It's an adaptive hormone. Jung called it the adaptive hormone. And so men typically have 20 to 30 times the testosterone that women have. So although a woman can do a job, her system inside is more parasympathetic. And so even if she is doing that job and she can do the job psychologically, eventually not having enough oxytocin and support from a male partner that says, hey, I get it, it's difficult, and I'm here to support you in your process, want you to be a success, and he can be a success. So she's met. Now there's the drop off. And so it's more harmful for the feminine system. Yet the other side of it is psychologically, it's harmful for the male system because more men are now looking to drugs and alcohol and porn and God forbid committing suicide. So they're not only losing a partner, they're losing the potential for a partner because men are literally falling by the wayside. Now, what does that mean? Well, clearly, if they're doing those things, chivalry is it's not even a second thought. They can't even begin to imagine how can I show up for her when I can't show up for myself.
Yeah, so good, Billy. And we'll get into lots of the details about chivalry. And of course, when you think about, once children are wanting to be brought along, there's no way we can be equal. I mean, a woman's body has to, live through the pregnancy, give birth. And of course, as much as we may love, men and women may love their sons and daughters equally, there are differences in, what we contribute to a child's life. And so, to navigate all that and keep in the respect and chivalry in a long-term relationship definitely, I guess, takes a lot of work.
Oh my, this is where I can.
And adaptability, because once the children come along, it's not like going out on your first date anymore.
Well, even before the children come along, this is one of the things that we, I don't want to say are just finding out because it's been out for a while, but when a woman gets pregnant, her system is now the universe for the child. And if the child does not feel supported because the mother doesn't feel supported, that child's system adapts to what it perceives as a hostile world. So let's just say this, and this is now the prevailing science that males are more susceptible to early life, both relational and developmental trauma, because testosterone in the womb, when it gets in there, it shuts off the right brain capacity to develop, which is our capacity, social engagement system. It's our capacity to, like social engagement, to relate. It's also part of the capacity to self-regulate. Now, we already know males' brains develop, and it's getting worse. Oh my goodness. It's getting worse from what they're saying. They thought it was at 25. Now they're saying not till 30. And that's if there's no trauma. Young boys cry more. Young boys need more attention. And if they don't get it, God forbid, the amount of difficulty they have as a child is pretty much the amount of trouble they're going to make as an adult, or let's say attempting to be an adult. So the mother, the mother needs absolute support from the father to make sure she feels less than no stress. And I know it sounds impossible, and she can't just have 2 weeks off work. I mean, they talk about the first 1,000 days, at least the first 2 months, and progressively to 1,000 days and possibly 2 years. That child needs the mother's attention for their brain to adapt and adjust fully. They call that the good enough parenting and affect and attachment fields. If this isn't happening, then later on, people are going to end up with a partner that can't self-regulate. And what do we call that? Of the anxious partner, the ambivalent partner, and the avoidant partner. Well, all those things start in childbirth. They I guess in the 60s and 50s, they started noticing that people had difficulties with, well, one person runs and the other person chases. And around that time, Bowlby was coming up with his ideas about it. And it's interesting because one of the people I listen to a lot, Alan Shore, who's part of the Norton series with Dan Siegel's Interpersonal Neurobiology, he wrote the foreword for Bowlby's book. And that whole understanding explains what's going on with our dating and relationships now. And it's not the two people here, it's these two children that are trying to express through the adults here. And we're shaming, blaming, and judging, which is basically hurting a hurt person or victimizing a victor all over again. Because I know it's hard to look at a full-grown adult, and he could be a professional football player, and saying, okay, this person runs around in a field and kicks the ball and slides and does all this stuff. Or in America, they run around and they bang helmets and heads. But they get home and they can't self-regulate, which is why often athletes have problems with intimate partner violence or domestic partner violence, because they have all that testosterone, but their consciousness isn't adapted because they haven't spent time in a monastery in Tibet. Now, the monastery in Tibet, meditation and yoga are what heals those aspects that in early childhood trauma are wounded.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Billy. Well, let's get into this post. I think you've got it pinned on your page at the moment. I have printed it off. So I'd like to go through it just bit by bit. And if you could expand let's go back to basics to beginning, because some things seem quite obvious, but let's also get into the emotionality behind it. What does it serve the woman and what does it serve the man? Because, it's all about balance. The man has to get something out of it as well, right? So it's a post called Dating and Marriage Made Simple. So the first few lines are: men, you plan the date, you pay for the date, shower, shave, dress well.
Right. We men, I think Viktor Frankl, who survived the Holocaust, talked about meaning, and we seek meaning in our lives, and as do all people. Yet, when we sit across from a woman the opportunity to see more than we're capable on our own. I think it's the lover card in the tarot, where she looks to the divine and he looks to her. And even Solomon in scripture, in the Psalms and Ecclesiastes and those things, he talks about what in Hebrew is chokmah, which means wisdom. The Greeks call it Sophie, as in philosophy, love of wisdom. Well, that is the feminine. Solomon says straight up, find her and look for her and seek her with all your heart. Well, so this, to me, when I look at a man to say, look, this is what you can do and this is what you want to do, he's not just dating a female who happens to be embodied in a female. He's dating and taking out and showing care for and entertaining and being playful with and learning from and sharing with uh, a vessel for those wonderful attributes, those wonderful characteristics. Because women's, and we talk about it all the time, intuition, uh, that right brain that comes through a woman, they know this now to be more of a direct channel through to the divine than what we as men have, unless we do our work. It's typically not, again, the whole right brain thing. So when I say plan the date, uh, let's look at that to begin with. The best thing he can do is keep her in her parasympathetic. If she has to plan the date, now she's in her sympathetic masculine. She's now hunting for a place to go out. So when I say to men, and I think and guys crack up with this when I say this, I say, buddy, this is romantic reconnaissance. You find out while you're talking to her before you have the date what kind of food she likes, why she likes the food. Oh, that's interesting. You find out in your talking favorite colors and oh, are there flowers that color you like? Oh, and she may say because she's gonna love to express. It's her opportunity to say what comes from when the heart is full, the mouth speaks. So there's all this wonderful uh, way of being that wants to blossom and open up that we have access to if we ask. We have to ask. I call it the going. You have mountains in back of you, and the man speak, and I say, go to the Alps, ask, listen, paraphrase, silence. So we ask, we listen, and we say, it sounds like you're saying this. And she'll either correct us while we're being silent, or she'll say, yeah, that's it, that's it. And so once we find that out, well, we say, okay, in our area or in her area, and we take a look around, because now we have Google, we can find all the places that, okay, she likes, for instance, so she likes Thai food or she likes Italian. Well, what restaurants in that area? Aha, there. And then you find out about that. And this is just me. I go to the area, I look at the restaurant. I don't just wait to go to find out that it's a certain kind of place. I'll go in and look it over and go, okay, yeah, this is a nice place. She'll like this. I'm not just gonna have it accidentally, show up with her there and go, oh, no, this is no good. I want to make sure before. So I'm going to plan the date, or I'm going to look maybe if they have it online, I'm going to look at some pictures and I'm going to look at the types of food they have there. And to make sure, go, hey, do you have tiramisu? She likes tiramisu. Do you have that? I'm going to make sure it's there. So I'm not going to get there and go, oh, we would like some tiramisu. Oh, I'm sorry, we don't get that. Well, I'm going to look across at her and see and you don't want that as a guy. You want her to light up. So that's part one. So um, that's planning the date. The next thing is we are not only provision and protection, we're communication and connection. So we've made the connection. Now comes the part about the provision and protection. We've planned the date, and now we're going to take care of her on the date, especially if we're the ones asking her out. I usually joke that if a woman asks to pay, I'll look at the waiter and say, "That's counterfeit, and that's not her real card. You can't take that. You just can't take that. You can't." I saw her home printing the bills out. She was printing the bills out. That's her picture on the bench. That's not even that's her picture. So you make light of it, but the other side of it is that she gets the point that she's not going to be paying. She doesn't have to pay. But I'm saying it without saying, no, I'm the man and I pay. You
Right.
don't get into that place. So it allows her to say, to not have to work with that or wrestle with that. Is he saying I don't have to pay because I'm a woman and I can't pay? We don't want that. We understand that it's a treat. We say maybe we're saying we appreciate the wonderful things you told me you do at work. You deserve this.
Mm.
So I'm taking care of this. Again, and besides, we don't want you getting arrested for counterfeit bills. And when we can do those things, I mean, even if we're even if it's not a date, and unless it's a group of people, if it's a male with a female, it's on us. I usually say to guys, look, if you're just, even if it's a friend of yours, um, as a woman, though she can pay, it's not that she can't, it's that she shouldn't have to. And you want to make that clear that you want her, even as your friend, to be allowed to be in a feminine, because life is difficult enough. And if she has all kinds of things that she's working on, maybe she's a single mom, maybe she has all these things. The more we can take off her plate to make her life easier, to take care of the feminine. Likewise with, and if I went out with like one of my mentors, one of my the older guys that helped me out in life and gave me wisdom, they saved me going to college, a school lesson. So I consider that paying for the lesson in college. It's like, okay, I'm going to take care of that. In that situation, again, you're planning it, you're keeping her in the parasympathetic, allowing her to feel special, allowing her to feel, and if in the case of a date, that she's desired and she's more than worth whatever the bill may be. And you've planned the date, you take care of that by provision. And the other part is dressing well.
Mm.
Guys, you don't get your clothes to go on a date from Old Navy. I think Old Navy's great and everything, but that's if you're going on a hike, or maybe uh, you're going to work with her in a homeless shelter and you're going to be feeding people that are having difficulty. If you're going on a date, make sure you're wearing shoes, a belt. It doesn't necessarily have to be a button-down shirt, but it has to be a nice shirt. It has to be a high quality shirt that fits well, that's not wrinkled in the collar. Your pants have to be pressed. Even if you wear jeans, jeans are in vogue, so people wear jeans, but make sure the jeans are nice jeans, uh, or something in style. Again, if you're going to the movies or going out, and as I mentioned, I'll let it go with his, because we're going to get into the other part, but that's the start of it. That's before you get there, and when you get there.
This is great because this is a topic that's raised a lot, right? About, who pays. Now, is it polite for the woman to offer to pay and receive the no? Or does she just stand there and, or, whatever the situation, and not even make the gesture?
If she wants to make the gesture, you say, "Well, wow, thank you for offering. Uh, maybe next time." And of course, next time you'll take care of it too. Oh, maybe next time. You keep pushing it off. And like I said, unless it's our birthday, or we've done something great in our life or on our job or something like that, and she says, "You've just done this. I want to treat you." Okay, then it's okay. If it's your birthday and she wants to do it as something, because that empowers her to feel good about what she's also contributing, then it's fine. But in other situations, it's probably best to say, "Oh, well, wow, thanks, I appreciate it." Um, the occasionally, if she's really trying to say that, just say, I don't know, if you want, you can leave the tip.
Hmm.
But you try to leave the tip before she does too. You say, oh, too slow. I try to let you, but
Um,
you got to go the old western and quick with that card. But
now, the subject of female entitlement comes up, and I've seen this circulating quite a bit in the polarity community at the moment, and I think it needs to be addressed because there are women out there who will take advantage of men being chivalrous and offering to pay the bill. So, talk to women, please, that maybe not doing the right thing by our men.
okay, what we're looking at then, uh, first of all, the polarity understanding. If we look at yin and yang, and I'm sure everybody knows the yin and yang. Within the yin, there's the yang. Within the yang, there's the yin. That aspect means that within every male, there's female. In other words, within every male, he has right brain. And within every female, there's left brain. There's capacity for both. Unfortunately, if people are wounded, if they have what we refer to as, again, early life trauma, and they may have narcissistic wounding. And again, narcissistic wounding comes from shame. So a neurotic will have shame. A narcissist has extreme shame and will try to cover it up. And how do they cover it up? By that entitlement. And again, it's like with an addict. It's not that they do what they do to feel good. They do what they do to not feel bad. So when they're trying to feel like more, when they're puffing themselves up, it's all a facade to say, I don't want to feel as bad as I felt. We're not sure what may have happened in early life. They didn't get the love and the connection and the dyadic gaze that they needed from the parent, or they may have. Often it happens with people who are adopted. They have a more difficult time. So if she feels entitled, as do men sometimes, men feel, well, I've done this, now you have to sleep with me. Really? Really? That's the 11th commandment. That's there, right? What happens is there's issues with feeling like less, so they have to try to one up on other people. If the woman feels, uh, if she doesn't show appreciation and gratitude, and it's not obvious, then you notice it's entitlement, and then you have to draw what I say as a male or anybody else, a benevolent boundary. And you politely call someone out. I call it compassionately calling people out to say, I've noticed this is happening, or this happens a lot. Um, are you open to talking about where that may come from? Are you aware that this happens? Have you seen this? Has anybody else that you may have dated brought this up? And to see if that's coming out, because if she's not aware of it, because a lot of times narcissism isn't something they're aware of. They're unconsciously that way. But if we bring it to their conscious way of being, to say, and likewise, to the woman to the man, especially in a safe place, I would recommend doing this in more of a place where she feels physically safe, because we don't want the guy to get upset and then act out because he's been found out. So with women feeling entitled, does she want this to be a short-term partnership, or is she looking for it to be a long-term partnership? Because if she's looking for it to be a long-term partnership, then she's inevitably going to have trouble, because like Chris Rock says, we don't meet people, we meet their representative. And if she's being her representative for those first 3 months or 6 months, sooner or later, the limerence wears off and we begin to see each other more clearly. Likewise with the male, the same thing. She's going to be able to see it more clearly. And if people are just using people, uh, the universe has a way of dealing with that. Sooner or later, it comes back to them. But especially with the whole going gray rock and the different parts of dealing with narcissistic behavior, one thing we'll notice if somebody's seeking entitlement of something, they'll also, while they're on a date with you, be looking around for other people's attention. And they'll be trying to triangulate. And they'll be trying to use subtle put downs to make you feel like less so they can feel like more. And when those things happen, what we have to do is go, I don't know if you notice you do that. I can pick it up. I'm probably not the only one that's picked that up, but do you notice you do that at all? So this way you can establish it. And again, we're not creating enmity. And with all things, I say it's not that you're doing it against them. You're doing it for them and for their growth. Because if you're going to move forward with that partner or that person, you have to establish that this is going to be a growth-based relationship. Because if you can't grow together, you can't go together. So is she presenting herself as somebody she just wants to go with or wants you to go with or to grow with? And I mean, you're not going to discuss marriage or kids on the first date. However, you are going to start saying, well, so what do you find important in life? What's meaningful to you? What do you think of this or current events or how do you feel about this subject or this topic? What are your thoughts on that? I always say go deep or go home. And you can be superficial for a while, but usually if it's a good date, it's gone to a degree of depth of conversation.
Yeah, and that also shows that the man wants to get to know the woman. He's not just interested in getting her into bed, or the woman wants to get to know the man. She's not just interested in a free dinner. Okay, I
Right.
could go on with more questions about that, but we should keep going, Billy. So now
Okay.
you've said surprise her as often as possible. It's the only time you get to lie to your woman. Winky face.
Yeah, I love this part.
Okay.
I admit this is one of my favorite things when you're trying to when you want to surprise her, because surprises are great. And if you're able to, as often as you can, say when she says, "Oh, what are we doing?" "Oh, well, just maybe dress like this. Just this will be good." "Well, where are we going?" "Out." "Well, where?" Out of the house somewhere." "Going out of the house." "Well, why do I want you to wear? Why do you want me to wear this?" "Well, you'll probably be more comfortable." And she'll go, "Well, to do what?" "Well, what we're gonna do. Just, just. I mean, you must have been an awful child for Santa Claus. Would you call Santa Claus up and say, "Hey, what am I getting?" You
Right.
know, you play around with those things, and to surprise also with little. I mean, as you get more into the relationship, you can do more things. But surprise with flowers. I mean, surprise with the different things. I mean, when I say, especially after they've gone out maybe a couple of times, maybe you don't get a bouquet for the first date, but a flower at least, a rose or something that she likes. But as it goes on, you don't just say, "Hi, here's your flower." You wait and you plan it out, and if she's getting in your car, and I'm giving away some of my stuff. So, what you got back there? You say, "Oh, wait a second. I can't believe I lost this." And you go in your back seat. "I can't believe, look at somebody put this in my car." And you pull out the card and different things like that, because that shows her you've thought about her, that you've taken the time to more than just a date. It's that you want her to feel important enough that you went out of your way. Something that's interesting, that's a surprise, that's important to her, that's relevant to her. That you maybe you found out like she likes a certain rock group, and Okay, so let's say she likes a certain musical group. This is what I would say. You would say, yeah, they're okay. Yeah, of course you may really like them too, but yeah, they're okay. And she'll go, but they're playing next week, next Saturday. And we go, well, yeah, but I already got something planned for you for Saturday. I really would have liked to go, yeah, but that's okay. We'll have to go see them some other time. No, it's not like they're going to stop touring or anything. Like they're not Aerosmith in their last tour. And she may feel a little upset. And but you don't take the direct route to the place where she knows they're playing. You kind of go around and you go, okay, now you may do a very unguy thing. You go, oh wow, I can't believe I'm lost. I'm gonna have to go ask in the gas station. Oh, okay, I'm gonna go around here, go around here, go around here. And then you pull up to the building. She goes, wow, they're playing here. And you go, yeah, I know.
And as you're saying that, anticipation for a woman, both in this situation and sexually, is a huge turn on. And it's really, I'm thinking about it as you're talking, and I'm like, it's the fact that we're in complete surrender of, you're where the man is taking us both, mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever the situation. And it really plays into the polarity dynamics. So, yeah, I love that. And great. Um, okay, so yeah, you've yes, so surprise her, don't crack and tell her your plan on a date. So okay, on a date, you are responsible for her coat, the door out, the car door, and then the car door, and the door in, and her coat and her chair.
Right. All of the above.
Right.
One of the jokes I use is I say, if she goes to get the door someplace, I say, they have CSI now, and if they find your fingerprints on a door, they're going to come get me because I let you open the door. So that's an arrestable offense. So you better let me get the door. And so one of the things that's really important is the more playful we can be, the more, and we can talk about very serious subjects. We can go into the depth of the difficulties in the world and the places. But if we can add some levity to those things, that's important as well. Uh, Regarding the door, uh, I still remember as a kid, my mother would walk up to the door of a place and she would stop and look at my brother and I, and we got the cue. That was it. We were getting the door. And we knew not only did we have to get the door then, but when her friends came over, if it were wintertime, we would take off their coats, put their coats down for them, pull out their chairs when they sat at the table because they were having tea or coffee, whatever they were coming over for. And that's what we did. We were raised that way. And we were taught to, again, if an elderly person would come up, if an elderly man would come up, we got the door. Um, and it's not just to say, because often sometimes women will, especially if a woman is attractive, she'll think, well, you're just getting the door for her because she's attractive. And what a man has to do is make sure that that's not his reason. He has to be willing to get the door for any woman, elderly, especially a woman who's pushing a carriage with a child. He's got to, if he's got a bolt to make sure he gets to the door before she has to try to reach around the carriage or to try to back through the door because she's going to have to try to swing that thing. So he's got to be the one to do that. If we're in line, and as long as it's not, I call it like the soul train where there's 30 people in a line, if it's one or two women, let them go first. There's an understanding that unless we practice patience, we end up a patient somewhere, and to self-regulate. So if we can, we get the door. And this is, we get the door into the car for her to get in. We get the door out of the car when she comes out. We close our door, we go around the other side, we open the door, we extend a hand because she may be getting off near a curb and coming up off a curb. And, you know, whether she's wearing heels or flats, a lot of times women are wearing heels, and it can be awkward getting off a curb. Although I know women that can outrun men in sneakers while they're wearing heels. I know some women who are quite athletic, and it's a feat to witness. But the next thing is she walks on the inside. If we're walking down the street to the place, if a car comes by while we're going and it splashes something on the curb, it's supposed to get us. I mean, in the chivalrous understanding, they used to throw things off a balcony and it usually goes to the outside, and that's going to get us too. So we're supposed to take the brunt of whatever happens, because if we can dust off, fine. But she's probably taken a lot of time to get her hair and stuff together, and it's going to be a lot easier for us to get whatever we have off or dust off something than to for her to have to feel like she's uncomfortable about how her appearance is, because we all know it's not just for us. Women want to feel good about how they appear for other women as well.
Billy, just
So that's
on that walking on the outside, it's also a protective thing, right? I know I do it automatically with children, always put them on the
right.
inside. If a car was to veer off the road, they're more protected. So when a man does it, a woman feels protected as well.
That's the first thing. My apologies for not mentioning that. Again, from a car, or just to feel protected and to make sure she's protected. And my goodness, do I see it all too often? And I think the guys get it, because if they're walking down the street and we meet eyes and I see him on the inside and she's on the outside, I'll just look at him and go, we'll go. Because I mean, it's like,
One for the team. I mean, but this is the thing, I mean, boys are being brought up by, I mean, I didn't teach it to my sons, I mean, I taught them good manners, but they didn't have to open the door for me, or in winter get my coat, any of that. And I'm looking back and I'm thinking, did I, maybe not do as much as I could in that field there? And they didn't have a man around to teach them, so it's just, I guess, awareness of, like, where did you learn to be chivalrous? Because from memory, you lost your dad at a young age.
right, right. At 4. Uh, what I would say is I was fortunate to have had other men in the neighborhood who were also fathers. My uncle moved in, and I watched him do it. My uncle, who was my mother's brother, moved in to help out, and he was a very caring man. And this is the thing, he was a truck driver. My dad was a truck driver as well as somebody who owned some businesses, and my other uncle was a boxer. And as tough as these guys were, I mean, I don't know if you get much tougher than truck drivers and boxers. They were kind, and they were very caring, and they were all, ma'am, may I get that? Sir, may I help you with that? And I watched when I was with them. And I mean, my uncle was probably in his 50s then, and I still watched him. If somebody was older, oh, no, no, let me get that for you. Let me get that for you. And he would do these things, and that was what I learned. Uh, and he would I watched how my uncle taught my mother, and I also asked how my father treated my mother. And I would hear, "Oh, you got big shoes to fill, kid. This is what he did." Because I remember we had a '69 Chrysler Imperial. That's how I remember it. Because in '69 I was 4 years old, and that was the new car my mother. And a Chrysler Imperial was not a just a car; it was an Imperial, and that was the car my father brought my mother. And I remember when I was looking at that car going, wow. Later on when I started fixing cars, going, wow, he must have really cared about her to get her that. And because she was the one who was driving it all the time. She was the one, even when, he had his other car and my uncles had their own car. So I know that she meant that much to him. And I know that when I asked questions of my uncles, I'd say, well, tell me about my dad. What was he like? And they said, well, you know how you lost your dad? And I said, well, yeah, he died saving kids in a fire. in Roxbury as a passerby. He run into the building, and they said, if you never heard anything else about your dad, that was enough. Now imagine how that same guy treated your mother. And he let her be in her strength. If something were happening, he'd go, what do you think, Shirley? And she'd go, I got this. And he'd go, okay. And he called her Hun or Shirl. That was because my mom's named Shirley Laura Mars. So we had the eyes of Laura Mars. I don't know if you remember that movie. That's true. She knew everything. I don't know how, but she knew everything. But that was where I learned it from. She made sure we opened the doors. She made sure we got our coats and got the people's coats. And in the winter in Boston, uh, she would stand at the window and look out over the parking lot when it snowed. And she'd look back at me and look at my brother and I. And we knew, okay, we're putting on our boots, we're getting the shovels ready, and we're going out to shovel the parking lots of the women who didn't have a man around, the elderly people. We were going out. She didn't even have to say anything. It got to the point where she'd just look and go. And that was it. And there was no, why do we have to do it? No, that's what we did.
Yeah.
That was part of what I guess we'd call chivalry.
Yeah, so good, Billy. So what if, it has skipped a couple of generations and, there's women watching or we're on a date and the man doesn't go to offer to open the door. Do we just let it pass? Or I have read posts where women have just stood there until the man opened the door.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In there. You are okay, entitlement, you are entitled to have your door open for you. So stand there and just look and if he says, what? Just say, have you not heard of chivalry? And if he goes, what's that? You say, oh, well, we can get you a book on it, but to start, a lady should not have to open her door. She should not have to pull out her chair. She should not have to take off her coat. And then you can drop the last part. Oh, by the way, she should not have to pay.
And what if he says, oh, that's all, 1950s and past stuff? What if he's not into that?
I would say they breathed in the 50s. Do they still breathe now? People still breathe.
Yes. I mean, it's
And
one
it's
thing to start dating a man and know straight away if he's sort of, into that. And it's one thing to maybe be in a long-term relationship and realize, hey, these things might actually help us, both sides, if we could start, implementing these chivalrous things, so tough one if the man isn't well into it and the woman would like it. Yeah. So
as a male, uh, it's about honor and respect and cherishing. We're not talking about someone who's doting on her or going to be a doormat for her. Uh, he, out of his strength as a human being, out of respect, out of honoring her, and he could say that it's my honor to do this for you. It's my honor to open the door for you. It's my honor to do this for you. Uh, and if she says I can do it myself, and he says I'm sure you can, you don't have to.
and what's the woman's role in this, in being able to receive it? Because it's one thing, we just briefly spoke about maybe men who didn't learn it, but also for a woman to learn to receive it. And what's her honorable energetic give back to the man?
Hmm. I heard uh, recently uh, from a psychologist that was doing a YouTube talk. Uh, oh, and he said, "What does every man want to be? and I think it may have been a TED Talk as well. He said, her hero. He wants to be her hero. There is nothing he'd want more than, and it's not to say she has to be a damsel in distress or to be uh uh to rescue her, but to be someone she acknowledges and admires for who he is. We may never have met somebody and they could be our hero. They could be somebody who we look up to. When he has her respect and she knows that he would sacrifice for her, that he'd lay it on the line for her, and if he's not able to come back, yeah, he'll go. And this is something that they spoke about, where they asked a bunch of women and men in a place that even if he's breaking up with her, even if they're breaking up, would he still die for her? And the guys, I think 90 something percent of the time said, yeah, yeah, I'd have to. I'd have to. So her being willing to, and I joke about it often, that we as men have to really start paying attention to the fact that women have been giving their whole life, and it's hard for them to be able to receive. They've been taught to be givers. They've been taught to uh, stand back and let others do things. They've been taught to be in the um, uh, submissive place, and that's not, you don't want a submissive woman. You want a woman who knows her place, knows who she is, and is willing to say, hey, you said you were going to do this. And you want to be able to say to her, hey, you're right. Thank you for reminding me. You're making me a better person, a better man. And we want a woman to be at her best, in her power. Because my dad, I remember, because God forbid it happened, uh, if she has to completely depend on him, what's she going to be if something happens to him? Who's she going to believe she is? She has to be able to stand on her own and be her own being, who is in an interdependent partnership rather than a codependent bartership.
Yeah, this is great. And let's get into, I mean, we've still got a lot on that post to do, but I've got to touch on the difference between, in your opinion, between submission and surrender. Because personally, I do feel there's a huge difference. And this is a big topic in the polarity and relationship communities. I do prefer the word surrender. As a rider, I feel it has a much higher frequency to surrender as to be submissive because, well, I could go into my feelings, but I'd like to hear it from your perspective.
That's I've actually written on this, the difference between submission and surrender. I had a friend who, actually the guy who took the pictures for my book, um, he was a tango teacher, and you'd never guess he was a kind of portly guy, and but he was just brilliant. And he talked about, we had talks about something, about things, and he was teaching tango lessons, and he was teaching me how to learn to tango. And he said, you want the woman to be able to feel that she can surrender herself to you because she knows you'll sacrifice for her. And what he said was, he said, I want you to watch the people tango dancing and watch them dancing. And he says, you want to know how you can tell who's a good tango dancer? Only by the woman's face. And I went, by the woman's face? And he says, watch the woman's face. If she looks like she's in La La Land, just kind of dreaming off, just floating, she's surrendered and she feels completely comfortable with him. She feels like this guy is watching everybody in the room and making sure she's not going to bump into everything or anything like that. He's making sure that the floor is dry around her feet. He's making sure that every move she does, when she's doing her ochos, when she's doing her movements, that she is completely looked out for. Likewise, the same thing happens in relationships. She can completely be in her feminine. And the same thing is as I talk about intimacy and erotic, the same thing happens in that place. she has to feel completely in that place, so nothing can happen for her. And it's up to us as guys to make sure that that container, that's why Adam was put in Eden first. He didn't go there just to, it's a long story,
Okay.
if I may. Adam was androgynous.
Okay.
The Jewish story was Adam was separated into Adam and Chava. So Adam and Eve became equal, intimate partners. There's no such thing as she became his servant. They were equal partners, and they were souls that were supposed to be able to come together, him doing his part, her doing hers. So he sacrifices to create the garden, she surrenders, and I often talk about she envisions the world and he engineers it. So he goes and makes the place structurally sound, and she says, okay, we can put pictures here, we can put curtains here, we can do good. This whole thing about dominance and submission, and God forbid, yeah, I hear it a lot in the polarity thing. This is woundedness. This is this is early life developmental trauma trying to establish a foothold in a relationship so it can feel comfortable without having to heal its wounds.
Mm.
The purpose of going together is growing together. If the man becomes who he's supposed to be, he doesn't want dominance over. There's a great saying that the truly fearless neither fear nor wish to be feared. What he wants is that she sees that he's willing to be the best man he can be so she can look up to him and say, this man is doing his work to not only be the best he can be for her, but for the world. And likewise, she can look at him and he can look at her and say, I have to be the best I can be so she can fulfill and rely on my being who I have to be so she can do what makes her happy in her world. She can show up because it's a partnership. It's overlapping. It's one of these things. It's overlapping. She has what she has to do in the world when he's not around, and she has to be able to get out there in her world with the people she's around, whether she's the CEO of a company or the president of the United States. Doesn't matter. They have to feel, because they're supporting each other to be the best each can be. They're 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 not trying to compete with each other, but to cooperate.
Billy, so we've got submission and surrender. Is there a word like, and we've got dominance at the other end of the spectrum. Is there a word that we can use instead of dominance? Like, like personally, we've agreed we like surrender over submission. What would be the word we could use instead of dominance?
Well, let's go scripture, if we will, because that's the original understanding in both Hebrew and Aramaic. I'm half Greek. I would love for it to be the Greeks who just, but it was written and understood in Aramaic long before. It just wasn't written in a book form. But the original understanding is dominion, which means to look after, to be a steward. It's stewardship of. So you're not putting yourself above. You're putting yourself within. And they say the master, there's no such thing as a great leader who hasn't followed. If you want to be the leader of, if you're going to take the lead in a situation, as with dancing, like that great movie Take the Lead, you have to understand the steps that that person who's following you has to take to feel their best. In other words, you're leading, you're taking the slings and arrows for that person, you're sacrificing. A person who's taking dominion over, that person is saying, huh, this person is going to make sure everything's okay, and this person's going to make sure I'm safe. This person's going to make sure if it's with children that the children are safe, and this person will go out and again take the slings and arrows. So it's not domination over, it's dominion for. This likewise, it's not, he doesn't want from her, he wants for her. And if he receives from her, it's only because he's looking for that, he's supported her enough to the point where she feels open enough to give. The flower has blossomed, it gives the scent. Why? You've supported the flower. You've allowed the flower to open. Now it gives the scents. Now it gives the beauty of the rose.
Yeah, so good. Thank you, Billy. All right, let's move on. So we're still at the restaurant.
Yeah, we're still at the restaurant, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
we've taken her coat off, and okay, so you hand her the menu first. You ask her what she'd like. She orders first if she prefers, or you order for her as the lady would like. And I'll just read
Right.
this last bit because it's all sort of in that. Just be courteous to the other person serving you. We shouldn't even really have to mention that, should we? But I'm glad you did. It's important to be a pleasure to be served. Please and thank you always.
Right, right. When it comes to ordering the food, what often happens is when the menu is there, that's a time when a woman may say she may have to use the restroom. She may want to, it may be hot, she may have just come back in from outside, well, as you know, with having had her coat taken off and having sat down, it may be a certain way outside, windy, etc. She may want to freshen herself up. So that's the moment where, would you like me to order for you? Okay, you go ahead and take care of it. I got it. I'll order for you. Or if she just likes to have the guy say it, to make sure he's paying attention. Sometimes that's the reason. But he's handing her it's ladies first, so he's always handing her the menu first. And there's usually specials. And so he's listening for the specials. And what he's doing while they're saying those things is watching and listening. He's listening and watching her response. If she goes, oh, okay, that's what she likes. He's watching her, what she says. You can literally watch the body language. And so he's watching for what's happening for her. And he's going, okay. And because if they go to the restaurant this time and he sees there's a couple of things she likes. Oh, okay, so she's having a difficult time between the two, those things. And what he's going to say is, well, she liked this and she likes that, but she's probably not going to want to order both because it's going to be a lot on a plate for her. So the guy can then say, excuse me, is there a possibility to have both of those things in smaller portions? Because it seems like she kind of likes both. And he may say, well, I'll go ask in the kitchen. So he's paying attention to see what she'd like, and she may like to try both. And so this is another point where he's paying attention to her and he's allowing her to be in her feminine. Now, if she wants to speak for herself and he can see her going like she's all energized. And then he says, waiter, I may I ask a moment? I think she has something she's looking to say. And just you're bringing the attention. You're not providing her. You're not. And I get the point that people say, oh, you have to allow her to speak. No, there's no allowing anything. I'm making sure this guy is paying attention to her so she can ask without her trying to speak while he's paying attention here. I'm saying, buddy, your attention has to go over here, or ma'am, your attention has to go over here. She has something that's clearly on her mind, and she wants to try two of these things, or wants to say something, and she wants to do it before she has to go freshen up. Who knows? But what it is paying attention to her needs and being aware of what's happening for her.
Okay, Billy, this is great, but I'm trying to think if I was a man in that situation. And it's one thing once you know a woman and you know she loves, whatever it is, and you can order for her. But let's make first date. And you're just getting to know each other, and the woman hasn't got all excited about one particular thing. Like, what does the man do? Does he say, "Would you like me to order for you?" Does he say, like, what would you do in that situation? And she hasn't gone to the restroom.
Okay, so you would say, uh, in certain places, it's customary for uh, the man to ask what the woman would like, and if she'd like him to do the ordering for her. I don't know where you're from or what that's like for you. If you think that's okay, I'm happy to order for you, or if you'd like to order, either way, what you would like to eat gets ordered first.
Okay, good, great clarity. Thank you. All right, so let's move on. Now, this is very interesting. Okay, so we've ordered the menu, we've ordered, and now you say, and it's the 80-20 rule. Men, you listen 80% and maybe talk 20%. And most of that 20% is asking or paraphrasing. And you did talk about the paraphrasing before, but I'm interested in this 80-20 dynamic. Because I know personally, I do like to ask questions too. I like to get to know the man. But are you saying that I should just surrender more and just let him ask the questions?
Oh, not at all. It's important for you to know who you're dating as well. And he would answer questions. And what he might do is ask for clarity when you're asking certain questions, because what you're looking to do is create a dialogue. And as people go along, his answers typically as a male are going to be shorter and more, let's say, succinct. Men, the part of the brain that's able to right brain be creative about what he's saying, that's not always functional in men. If it happens to be a man who's more creative and more poetic, he'll dress it up more. Yet when he does, he has to make sure that he's not talking about himself. The important thing is to understand, especially for him, more of what's going on for her. I mean, he can say what he feels about certain things or thinks about certain things that will let her know about him. However, it's not a one-upmanship, especially to say about who he is and what he does and how wonderful he thinks he is. That's narcissism. And the thing is, you're on a date, and especially as a male, you're trying to find out what this wonderful being across from you, uh, how she can, again, how she can receive better, because her whole life has probably been spent giving. And she may have things that are important to her that she may not have gotten to talk about with a male. So she doesn't have often a male's perspective on things, and she may want to ask questions about things. And likewise, to answer her back, to say, yeah, I get that. That's important. And to be able to say, well, what does that mean to you for that? What's the thought around that? What are your feelings around that? So that's an asking, but he's also listening and paraphrasing. And if you, as a woman, have questions about him, sure, you'd ask questions and go, oh, okay, so what's another question for a guy that comes up? What do you feel about commitment? So a guy's asked about commitment, and he's going to say, well, I think commitment's really important, probably for the same reasons you do, that you can't find oil digging a bunch of shallow ditches anywhere. You're not going to be able to really understand somebody if you go around this person and that person. So I don't think that in a situation where someone's in a relationship, and this whole, and again, the other thing with body count that's big and popular now, uh, both with men and women. I don't think, women are like, well, why is body count okay for men? It's not. I don't think a man should, because how does he get to know anybody? How that's the trophy to see how many people he can sleep with. And I always talk about this. It's not who you sleep with, it's who you wake up with, who you're awakened and creating yourself and understanding with, and letting her know that, and then letting her, how do you feel about that?
Nice one. Great. All right. So now we've got, oh, you've already mentioned about the flowers. Mystify her with them. Don't just hand them to her. Spontaneously dance with her once in a while. Okay, at least once a month. Okay, maybe 2, 3 or more.
Definitely. Always have music handy, and spontaneous, because it's now great, we have phones that have iTunes on them, or Spotify, or those things, and occasionally you can go, wow, uh, this is a great song. This is a great song, and you're listening, and you just listen to the song, and you just out of nowhere say, may I have this dance? Just, it can be in a parking lot somewhere. And I mean, okay, full disclosure, I love doing this. And I can't tell you how often in the middle of a parking lot, people in the parking lot.
Nice. I love that. Yeah. That's, yeah,
You got
it's
to do this.
spontaneous. Spontaneity.
Right.
Beautiful, Billy. And then when she comes home tired from work or a busy day, have a candlelit bath drawn for her and dinner cooking. Give her a kiss, hand her a towel and point to the bathroom.
Yeah. So eh, if you've communicated during the day, you've asked her how her day has gone, and if you can hear that she's had a really tough day, and she goes, oh, it's just, I can't believe this day, it's gone on. Okay, all right, I'm paying attention to that. So as a couple, you may share days to cook. You may share days to get things done. And what's interesting, in both China and Japan, where I lived for a while, the men cook. It's the guys cook. So learning how to cook, and I mentioned taking home ec class, because I had a single mom and I wanted to be able to help out. So I took home ec class as a kid, and I found out my dad actually had a restaurant. So I learned to cook. So being able to do that for her, so she can come home, she's maybe dragging herself through the door at the end of the day, and she's thinking, oh God, I gotta try to cook, and we didn't order food, and oh my God, oh. And for her to open the door and go, wow, is that it? That's dinner cooking. And not only is dinner cooking, um, there's a bath waiting for you, and you just hold the towel and point.
And of course, well, if you've got kids, even just, giving the kids a bath and letting her put her feet up for half an hour
Yeah,
instead of walking into, um, crazy hour at home.
yeah, that too, to especially with kids, uh, to be able to say, uh, just to say, hey, even if you haven't said it, maybe she needs to hear it to get through the day, to say, hey, I do this with the clients I work with, if I'm training couples, I say, okay, listen, you got 30 times the testosterone for a reason. Uh, this is part of the work, take care of the kids. She's doing her work as well. Uh, get the kids set up for their homework. If they're doing homework, or if they have to get bathed and they have to get set, uh, you do that. Maybe if you find that you don't have time to cook dinner, maybe you order something for the group of you. But if you're going to be home first, or if she's going to be home first, and she's going to maybe start to get things started. Just say, hey, hon, this is going to be a tag team effort. So, I'm not going to be home till after you, but I'll order some food. And if you can get the kids started, I'll take over. So when I get there, we'll tag it off, and you can take yourself a bath and get yourself set. And I'll take care of the kids the rest of the way. I'll get them fed, and you can just, get some Epsom salt. You can get some lavender, and do your bathing. Wish I was home to do it for you. But like I said, if he's home first, he can set up the bath and say, okay, so what's your ETA? Because he doesn't want the bath water to get cold. Yeah, okay, you're going to be home here. Okay, so by this time, okay, this is going to be set. And he can get that set. He's going to get the kids done first. There can't be a kid in a tub when she gets there. He's got to have that all set, you know. Um, and set up the room. You got to get the rubber duckies out. You got to get the things out of the place. You don't want her getting in the tub and hearing squeak, the quack and all that stuff. But the kids are going to be, and this is what you anticipate. It's called uh, implement intentions. Especially when we're trying to teach a new habit to somebody, we teach them, well, what could get in the way, and you anticipate beforehand. This is like military talk. You have tactics and you have strategies. What could go wrong? Okay, plan for that to have a possibility of going wrong and move that to the side. You anticipate all these things. And in your mind, you already know your surroundings. You can't not know your surroundings.
Mm.
And have that set. You have to sometimes, know what's in your cabinets. Look in your cabinets, know what's in the refrigerator, and say, okay, we got this, okay, before work. Because if something's going to go wrong, you're in a partnership. You're looking out for your partner. And she may know, you may know. Because if both of you are on the phone and it says, okay, we have milk, and she goes, yep, but it expired last week. Okay, I'll pick up some milk on the way home.
Yeah.
Or she says, hey, we have some milk in there, and well, it expired. I think it expired. I'm on my way to pick it up at the store. What else do we need? Something for the kids? What do you need? Because again, this is a partnership that you're co-regulating, you're co-creating and co-regulating. You've got each other. She knows, and she knows in her mind that she doesn't have to do it all. Like a lot of women think, God forbid I have 3 children that came out of me and one that I married.
Yeah.
You can't have that. So, and I mean, it's so easy for us guys. I tell guys, look, I say, look, this is what you can do. You make sure everything's done. And then if you want, say, hun, I got everything done. I'm going to be in the garage working on the car if you need me. I'm going to be working on this, or is everything done? I have the game. It's coming on in a little while. Do you need me to do everything? And the game is on pause. Make sure everything she needs so she can relax into herself. The kids, do they need this? And if you need some you time, but you've created you time with the understanding that she's it's ladies first. Make sure she's set first. And then you can, okay, if everything's set, everything good. And most likely she'll go, yeah, please go. Okay. You're
Love it.
like, all right, all right. But you're playful. You're not seeing it as she's trying to get rid of you. She knows that you want to go do that thing. She knows you. You're paying attention to each other. And that's I mean, I have my musical instruments. If they're both tuned to E and E, and the minor notes, the minor chords, and the major chords overlap. C major is A minor. They're the same notes on the same playing thing. So the masculine and feminine play the same notes, just in different ways. So if you're vibrating together, which is the string makes notes, sounds by vibrating. If you're, and this is the term, attuned, attunement. And scripturally they said atonement, but actually it's at one ment, at one mind together. so you know what each other needs. And if you're paying attention, because when you get on stage and you're tuning your instruments, what key are we in? Okay, we're not drop D, we're not dropping okay, so we're at the same one. And you say, okay, this is how the song is going to be played. This is the tempo. Okay, this is what we're doing. And you make sure with one another.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's the same thing with a date.
Yeah. Love it, Billy. All right, we're already on an hour and a half, so I'll just see what else comes up in this. All right, so we've done that, and obviously, you know, you can do the extras, the foot and the back massage. And this is great, a great point you mentioned. If you give a little more than you're asking for, your love will turn the key.
Hey, I've met Barry Gibb on a number of times from the Bee Gees. He used to go to this record shop on US 1 in Florida. It seemed like every time I was there, he'd be there. And uh, okay, so I'm not a saint. I stole my sister's Saturday Night Fever record when I was a kid. Stole it. I admit I flat out stole it and listened to that Saturday Night Fever thing. And later on, Andy Gibb did that song that has, if you give a little more than you're asking for, your love will turn the key. That is an understanding of how the universe works. Uh, you if you want something, because a lot of guys will say, well, she's not doing this, and I go, oh, well, let me ask you this. If you go to the fireplace, do you say, give me heat before you put the wood in the fireplace and get the kindling set and everything, so it makes, can you get food, can you get heat before you put something? So you got to give more. If you give better wood for the, and you light it and it's a good quality and it's going to give a nice glow, and that's what happens. So giving more. Don't wait to, the more you give, the better she can receive, the more she can feel, and she opens to give from, and I think I just talked about that on a post about a woman in receiving gives, because it's just like when you water a flower, you provide light, you provide the proper nutrients in the soil. The flower opens and it gives the perfume, it gives the beautiful colors, it opens up, and that's what a woman is. It's not a mistake that women are often uh, considered to be like flowers. And so giving more, allowing to her to see with, again, she's not just saying, oh, I'm entitled, and in a way that's not from a place of gratitude and appreciation, because we all like appreciation, attention, affection, the 5 A's that David Rico speaks of, and becoming an adult, or becoming an adult in love or in relationship. If she knows that you're honest in that, and if you know she's receiving from a place of honesty and not entitlement, giving a little more than you're asking for becomes a joy. You don't feel like you're giving. And as Rumi says, it's not just that you're giving, the receiving, the person, you're thankful for a person being willing to receive what you're giving. And as Rajneesh Osho said, the reason why people have difficulties in a breakup is because you can no longer give to that person you care for. That's the real sadness in a breakup. It's like, oh, wow, I can't do that for her anymore. Yeah, no, sad for that.
That's really good. And that post does go on. We probably got through about 2/3 of it, but I think we got through all the, the important bits and the energetics of it. So I recommend that you go to Billy's page and read the full post. But I am wrapping that up only because I do have some other questions that I'd really like to get into. I'd like to know. So you named the title of this show, Chivalry Beyond Masculinity, Dating and Marriage. So I'd like to know, in this day and age, do you consider that marriage is still important, and why?
Oh, Absolutely. Marriage, I refer to a relationship as an intimate trinity. So the reason why you're forming that union is so that you can bring what we would call source or God or that divine energy in as the glue that holds that partnership together. It's part of your trying to or assist and bringing out the transcendent being in your partner and her in as a male you. So you have two people that are looking to beyond each other. What are they doing for the community? What are they doing for others? What's the reason they're together beyond just two people that feel a physical attraction? There has to be a metaphysical connection. So there's a deeper connection that you're trying to bring in, and you're trying to bring that light into the world and bring that around with you so that when she's off, she feels fully supported, not only by the fact that you're being a manifestation of that divine energy, especially if you're the man, the masculine for her, that understands her feminine, because the yin within the yang. Likewise, she can go off and do what she's doing, and that may be expressing the yang within the yin as she does her part in the world as well. She shows up to her purposes and what's important for her in the world. So in a marriage, again, as with Adam and Eve, it's two people that felt they were separated that now came back together. And that's actually what's spoken of by rabbis about two souls coming back together, the souls that were separated coming back together as the two wings of the angel. And that often is also spoken about as that when two flames are brought together, the twin flames, that's the two wings of the angel coming together, and that fire now burns brighter exponentially because those two beings are together. So a marriage is not two people that are just trying to make sure that they have, as in biblical times was thought, cows and enough sheep and producing people that can farm. It's about a more of a thanking and gratitude towards the divine for being able to find a person that you can so understand and grow with that you're thankful and you're sharing that blessing of love and life with that person.
Yeah, and I love this. And I also speak of this metaphysical aspect. I say a threesome with God.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So, all right, now is it okay on the subject of marriage? Is it important to get that external officiation, or can it be a commitment between two people without an actual legal wedding certificate?
The Oh, you're talking about whether or not it has to be ordained by somebody
Yes,
outside.
yes, thank you.
It can be. I would say it first has to happen within the two people, and the external part is more of a byproduct. It's kind of like they used to coat cars with a clear coat, but they had the regular paint underneath. So in other words, it's so good on its own, and the certification that you're expressing to the world is the clear coat. Now, to be able to say, yes, I want the whole world to know. Yes, by all means, that is a way of saying it. And that putting on of that ring means the circle is complete with that intimate trinity, with that threesome. It's not just saying to the world, it's also saying to God that you have made this commitment to grow with this partner. And I don't understand. Uh, there's a certain way of being that you're with that person that you love, and to me, there's that. I mean, God forbid it's the easy like Sunday morning thing. It has a different meaning in the song, but waking up on a Sunday morning and just cuddling with that, especially as a guy, cuddling with the woman you love, and feeling that presence, and feeling that. unity, and knowing that she knows she's the one and you're the one for her, and there's no thought of anyone else that could separate, that could break that. And she knows and you know, and it amazes me that people would risk that, because someone can feel when that bond has been broken, that unity, that trust has been broken. And there's an understanding in developmental trauma that we seek connection, attunement, um, trust, autonomy, and the love and sex, and to have all those things together with that one person. And people don't realize this, especially men. The more connection and trust she has, the more, and I always say, men, if you need another woman, if you're doing the right thing, you'll reveal 1,000 women in the one woman you're with. She's going to become, there's aspects of her she hasn't shown you yet because you haven't allowed her. You want someone wild? Well, you allow that in Pandora's box. You be careful what you wish for, because that's there. She can be all these things, and but you can't shame, blame, or judge her. You have to be willing to say, ah, how okay, I was fortunate enough to witness that. Now I don't have to go out for the 4th of July anymore. I've already seen before the New Year's Eve. I don't have to wait. I've seen it. It's there. You know? So yeah, that connection with that's part of it. That's all part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I was just wanting to clarify, can two people be committed to themselves and have that beautiful, intimate, growing, long-term relationship, monogamous without the external ordination? Is that how you say it?
If they were on an island together, they would have to probably know, but they may have a ceremony of their own.
Hmm.
They may have a ceremony of their own to acknowledge it. Maybe there's not another person around to do that, but they would want to do that before the divine, before God, before whatever they refer to as that for themselves. But to make that commitment, to say, because that's what the word says, commit mind. I commit my mind and my being, who I am, who I'm growing into, to uh, loyalty, to growth with you. And with that, the capacity to grow not only spiritually, but most men don't get this, erotically. Most men don't understand when they understand a woman, when she's capable of opening up to uh, that beauty that's she's being allowed to release, because she feels okay to do that with you. That's an incredible trust, because again, like the flower, you're creating the container, you're providing that capacity to open, and she knows she's not going to be judged. And oh my, what incredible things she's capable of allowing a guy to witness. In fact, uh, afterwards he may have to, a lot of guys will replay things in their mind, because this is how we grow. He's going to have to sit back for a couple of hours and go, oh, but then the next thing as a guy, he's going to say, oh yeah, I gotta figure out how to allow her to feel. It's not about seeing it again. It's about allowing her to feel that she can display that again. They say the master is the one who creates the conditions in which certain things can arise, because you can't grow a flower from pulling at the petals. He's got to create the conditions in which she can feel and express that again. He can't say, oh honey, I want you to do that again. He's got to create the conditions, and should she feel so uh, able to express that, magic.
Mm. So good, Billy. Wow. We could take this conversation on for, I'm sure, another couple of hours, but I'd like to offer you the opportunity. Anything we haven't included already in this conversation that you really felt was important?
Uh, if we talked about beyond masculinity, within that word masculinity, I often put a K there in place of the C, because we as men often get stuck with a mask about who we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to be. And usually it veers off into aspects of stoicism and not being able to express. And I just spoke about this with a bunch of younger guys the other day. I said, look, it's not that she wants you to be sensitive so much as she wants you to be aware
Mm.
of things that are happening. And if you want to call it sensitive to certain things, but you may call it aware of those minute things, those details, and aware of what's happening, and to have feelings. And you don't break down when you say, I'm feeling this. You say, I'm feeling this. And because what she's looking for is, and what are you going to do about it? There's a great understanding. Women want men like men want things, and men want women like women want things. So, in other words, when a woman goes to buy something, often she'll say, huh, that will look good here to do this. And she's got it all planned out in her mind. And a lot of men are visual. So, if you flip it, women want a guy the way a guy wants things. So the guy's going to say, does it work? So she's going to ask, does this guy work? What's he going to do? That's great. He feels bad about it, but what's he going to do about it? She wants to know if she can count on this guy to do something about it. Likewise, when a guy buys things, he typically goes, you know, well, you know, what's it going to do now? But then when he says about a woman, he goes, well, a lot of times people say, well, it's about attraction, and it's not that. It's not about physical attraction. It's more about, is she the healthiest being she can be? Because when a man is down, he needs to know that if I go out and take the slings and arrows, am I coming home to the healthiest partner who's also going to be able to support me when I'm crunched, much like he takes care of her?
Yeah.
See what I mean? So it's not just a physical appearance he's looking at, because then it's just decoys. But because a lot of men, uh, when they're looking for a partner, men, we aren't as dumb as we may look sometimes. We will choose a partner and find something beautiful about a woman she doesn't find about herself. And we'll tell you 100 times, this is beautiful about you. And a woman, that's not true. No other woman has said that, because she can't see what we see as beautiful. So there's a beauty that a woman has about her way of being that we go, well, I don't see that often. There's a way that she moves, a way that she smiles, a way that she thinks, a way that she acts, a way she does certain things. And we go, huh, that's beautiful on a whole different level. And I often say the way a woman is most beautiful is on a Sunday morning with her hair up. She's got maybe her reading glasses on. She's reading and drinking her cup of tea or whatever she's doing. And she's just being, and you can look and go. And there's a beautiful line in Richard Mark's song, Heaven Only Knows, when he says, I hope to die in the arms of the woman I love. Right there, if that's the place he's got to go, okay, I'm good with that, because that is beauty.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a beautiful way to end this conversation, Billy. Oh gosh, you've opened up so many portals of exploration and practicality, and it's been an amazing conversation. And I know you've got a book that covers all of this. Have you got that close by? Fit for Life?
Uh, the the book was written more so, believe it or not, years ago as a way to help men and women understand themselves more, about the massage aspect, to help each other relax, because we have so many traumas, so many difficulties, to be able to relax our bodies. Um, the next part that I'm doing and working with is the more so the teaching practices and the press, and I'd like to bring someone like yourself in to be able to talk about these things, to help people, because to write something on a page is one thing, but to talk about what it means, because so many of us have trauma in our lives, and to be able to know that people are seen beyond writing a book, because the book may not apply to them. Whereas we can, you can come up with the questions and say, hey, this is what people are asking. And to be able to then address it with training the body for health, but allowing people to be in that space amidst the difficulties and say, look, people see you. We understand that you'd like to live X amount of years and you'd like to have this, but the health aspects, like fit for love, when I talk about it, it's not fit for just physical love. It's fit for the emotional love and the spiritual love and the mental love and all the different aspects that it entails to be a loving partner.
Well, and it's that wholeness, isn't it? It's all the aspects, and as you've mentioned lots of time, the growth aspect, to be able to grow together. I know, well, for myself, the more aware and conscious and healed I become, the more I want to just keep on growing and blossoming and flowering, and having that counterpart do the same in his masculine being essence. Well, Billy, where can people find you?
I have www.billysundaymars.com. That's my website. Also my Facebook page to take a look at the posts, and please feel free to chime in. People will be supported there. It's a place for conversation and interaction. Even again, as I say, even if people disagree, we can both learn from where we may have disagreements, but we don't have to be disagreeable about it. So I'm open inquiry to questions. Say, hey, why do you think that, or where'd you get that from? I'd like to be able to say, hey, look, these are the books I've read. This is where you can get the information too. It's not so much something I'd find online, but I want to hear, because I can only be better if I hear what people are going through. I can only help if I understand, because I may be missing something, and I don't want to, as the Aerosmith song says, I don't want to miss a thing. I want to understand how I can be of service.
Because we've all got such a unique experience, right? And we can only ever see the world from what we've experienced ourselves, either internally or externally. So that's beautiful, a beautiful way to be. Wow, thank you so much, Billy. This has been an amazing episode, and as I said, so much wisdom imparted. So thank you very much. And
Thank you for having me.
thanks everyone for watching. I'll be back in a few days with another episode of Manspeak. Do you want to stay on, Billy? Make sure I push the right one this time.